Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a pair of earrings using textures from around the house. Now I've gathered up a few things. This is some netting from a bag of onions, 2 pieces of pasta. Pasta comes in many different shapes and sizes. This is just the one I had available. Also, a kitchen towel or paper towel will work as well. Oftentimes they have textures, and I saw that and thought that'd be interesting. And then lastly, just some rice. And I've just popped that into a bowl. Now these are just a couple of the textures that you could use. There are a bunch of other ones around the house. And actually, if you have any in mind, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure we'd all love to hear what types of textures you can find. But those are the ones I'm going to be using today. Now, this is a piece of white polymer clay that has been rolled out on the thickest setting of my pasta machine. And I'm going to be using that to capture the texture. Now first, before I do any of that, I'm going to give it a quick burnish just to smooth out any lines that may have been created from the pasta machine. And this is just a plain piece of printing paper, and that should do the trick. Okay, and now we can apply the texture. So I'm going to use this first. I'm just going to pop it off to one side like so, and I'm going to use that paper again to burnish it down into the clay so that we get that texture. And again, this is just one of the 4 textures we're going to be using today. There are multiple different ways that you can use this, and there are multiple different textures around the house that you could use. Now, let me pull that up, and yeah, you can see that quite well. It did leave a little bit of red there, which I'm going to try to get out. Okay. And I'm going to apply it to a little bit on this end as well. There we go. And then again, you're going to want to get rid of those little pieces. Shouldn't be too difficult. Then I'm going to use the paper towel next. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually rip it into pieces. And then apply it, and let's see how deep that texture is. I'm going to try to burnish that in without removing the netting texture. Okay, and I'm not sure how well that's coming up. That's not really leaving much of a texture, so what I'll do instead is I'm going to ball it up like so. And I'm going to create texture like that. Sometimes the texture on the paper towel is a little deeper than the one that I have, so it will work better depending on how deep the texture is. So check out any that you might have in your house, but even if you don't have a paper towel with proper texture on it, balling it up into a wad like this and then applying it also works quite well. Okay, then I'm going to bring over the pasta next. Now this one, the main texture I'm going to be getting from around here. Sometimes you get pieces of pasta that are the kind of curly type, and those are quite nice as well because you can kind of roll those against the clay. But anyone with any pattern can work. See there, you take that and you can roll that against the clay and get quite an interesting pattern. Okay, and then lastly, I'm going to grab some of that rice. I'm just going to pop that on the surface, and I'm just going to use this to press it down. And then you're going to want to pick up your clay. And a lot of that rice will fall off, and then bring over the bowl and just brush it off, and then you can reuse it. Obviously you can't use this for food anymore, it is now just going to be texture rice, and actually so that I prevent wasting food, this is rice that got spilled on the floor by accident, and so used it for a different purpose. And you can see there, creates quite a nice texture. So I'm going to duplicate that across the clay. Okay, and there we go. I added a little bit more texture in the way of the pasta and some of the paper towel, but for the most part that's pretty much it. So it's quite a cool little texture sheet. And now I am going to plan out where I'm going to be cutting out the earrings, because I don't want to cover the whole thing with pastels, which is what we're going to be doing next, because this white clay is still white, you can still use it as it is, and so you don't want to be covering the whole thing if you're not going to be using all of it. Okay, so I've brought over the cutter that I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to choose whereabouts I'm going to want to cut each piece, and then I'm going to trim a little bit around that. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space to work, but for the most part I'm going to remove most of the extra clay. Then I'll do that for the next one. Okay, and then all this clay can be placed back with your white and can be used again, so you're not going to be using too much clay. Now these are going to be earrings, so I want to also take care of the backs. They're a little messy at the moment, so let's do something about that. And for that I'm just going to bring over a baby wipe with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on it, and that's going to get rid of a lot of the smudges, like so. There we go. And I'm going to bring over a silk screen, and this one I sell on my Etsy store, Jessima Design on Etsy, if you're interested, but any silk screen will work. And I'm just going to place that so that both pieces will get the pattern, like so. Just gently press. These silk screens have a slightly sticky back. And then I'm going to use some acrylic paint. I'm going to be using a little bit of black, so I'll just pop some of that down, and also a little bit of a brown. Pop that down as well. And then I'm going to use this little, it's supposed to be an alcohol ink dabber, but it works very well for the paint as well. I'm just going to pick up 2 bits, and then I'm going to go around the piece like so. And that way we'll get a somewhat mottled pattern. Okay, and then lift up and go clean your screen immediately. Okay, and then make sure that this is dry before moving on to the next step, and the silk screen is off drying as well. Okay. And I'm just going to place those the other way around, and I'm also going to bring over a piece of paper, and I'm going to place those down, and that's just going to allow me to move them around as needed. Okay. And you can use any pastels you want. I'm using these pastels, and so that's what I'm going to be working with, but any pastels will work. And I've just selected a couple of colours, and any oranges, well, any colours you want will work actually. It does not have to be the colours that I selected. What I'm going to do is I'm going to brush those on, and I'm going to try to do a mirror for each side, because these are going to be earrings. So whatever I do on the one side, I will do the opposite way on the other side. And it won't be perfect. I can get it pretty close. There we go. I'm just going to add a little more of this one. And that should do. And then I'm just going to dab it down with a brush, like so, working from one end through to the other. And that's all I'm going to do to start with, and then I'm going to go the same way for the other one. Okay, and then once you've done that, you can go over like so and just brush off the excess powders. Like so. And what I do is I will continue running over like this, and this almost burnishes the powders and makes the top part of the texture darker than the bottom part. And what I'll also do is I'll flip over at this point, because you're going to have some of those pastels work their way onto the back, and I will actually brush the extra pastels that we've got over the back. And that's why I used dark colours for the silk screen, because it won't be what is the word I'm looking for? The pastels, when you brush them over, won't affect the black, because the black is darker than them, so you won't be able to see the pattern get distorted or anything like that. Whereas if you used white paint, it would get discoloured. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for, discoloured. But just brush over the backs, like so. Okay, then I'm going to bring over that paint again. Pretty much just the brown this time. No, actually, no, it will just be the brown. There'll be still a bit of black on here from when we used it before, so I'm not going to use any of that. And I'm going to very lightly tap over the surface to get kind of a grungy look, and it will highlight the texture a bit as well. I'll do the same for the other one. Again, this is optional if you want to do this or not. There we go, and you can go as much or as little as you want. Okay, then I've changed out the paper, and I'm going to bring over white paint this time. Pop a little bit of that down, and I've also changed out the sponge on this, so that way it's nice and clean. And I'm just going to pop a bit on here, thinning it out, and I'm just going to work in the middle. Like so. So that way, when we cut, it's going to only show up around the middle of the piece. Okay, so we didn't need too much of that. Allow that to dry and also clean up the tile. Okay, and I'm going to take those off the piece of paper and pop them down, and I'm going to use a piece of paper to gently press them down onto the tile, so hopefully they stick a little bit. And I'm probably going to need to use something like cornstarch to prevent the cutter from sticking. Let's see how stuck those are. Those are actually quite stuck. I'll burnish a little more because we've got the powders on the back, and that prevents it from sticking to the tile, which is what I want, so that this doesn't stick. And I'm just going to choose a spot, and that looks about right. And what I'll do is I'll press halfway through then unstick, and then press the full way through. That way it shouldn't stick in the cutter much anyway. It was a good theory. You can just press that out. You can use cornstarch as well, but that seemed to prevent it from sticking too much. There we go. Pop that to the side, and I'll do the same with the other. Okay. I'm just going to remove these, and this one actually didn't stick in the cutter, but you should be able to lift that from the tile quite easily. And there you can see the back also has a pattern. Put that to the side as well, and keep these little middle bits as well. Okay, now I've got them on a piece of paper just so that they don't stick, and there you can see how they look. If you like this video so far, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. It's free and it really helps the video out. And again, thank you for watching and choosing to support the channel. But what I am going to do with these ones is I kind of want to see what they look like domed. So I've got this little doming tool here. I'm just going to pop that down, and let's see, how's that look? I actually quite like how it looks. Let's see if it will stay on. It won't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the oven for about 40 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature. And I'm going to see if I can get this to stick, because if I can, then I can do them both at the same time, which would be nice. So I'm just gently pressing down on the sides while not leaving fingerprints. And then I'll just see, will it hang? It's probably not going to, so I'll have to do them individually. So I'll actually put it in for 15 minutes to get the curve, then I'll put this one on to get the curve. If you have double of these, then you can do them both at the same time. But pop them in for 15 minutes to get the curve, and then I'll pop it off and keep it in the oven again for another half an hour, because you want to bake them for at least 40 minutes to get them completely cured. But yeah, you can leave them flat like so, or you can have them curved. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. Now I know it's about halfway through the tutorial, but I did mention in a previous video just a couple of weeks back that I was fussing with my lighting and just general video setup. So I tweaked it a little bit now, basically built a light box around the camera. So let me know if this looks better than the first half of the video. But for now we're going to stick with this setup. But these have been baked for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. And so now we are going to seal them, because there's a lot of pastels all over them, and I want to make sure that they don't rub off. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to bring over the paint again, and I want to just tidy up the sides. So I'm going to pop a bit down, and I'm just going to use this, tap it down, and just tap that along the sides, because the sides are a little bright at the moment. I don't want this to be black though, that's why I'm using the brown. And this is completely optional whether you want that or not. And I'm going to do the outside area, see how that looks. I might want to leave the inner part of the donut plain white so that it attracts the eye. But we'll see. I'm just going to apply one coat so that it has this kind of patchy effect, so that it matches with the rest of the piece. Okay, and I did end up colouring the inside of the piece as well. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to varnish them, and I'm using some Varathane water-based gloss varnish. Just bear with me for a moment. I'm dipping my brush in it. I've got a big pot off to the side so I can't show it on camera, but I'll just take that. I'm lightly going to dab that over the surface. I only need one coat. And I will do this for the front and the back because the back has paint and pastels on it as well. And try to get a bit of that on the side as well to seal in the paint. And I will do that with all of my pieces. There we go. And just going around a couple of times to make sure that I don't have any puddles forming. But there we go. And that will take just about 15 minutes to dry completely. Okay, and here is how they look once they've dried. So, nice light sheen. I've only applied one coat. If you wanted it to be shinier, you would apply a couple of coats. But yeah, that's about it. Now the question is how you want to string them. So, or not string them, but assemble them. You could have it like that, or like that, or what I'm thinking is probably the way I like it the best. I think I'm going to do it this way, but of course there are a couple of ways that you could do it. Actually, I kind of like how this looks. I think I might go with that, come to think of it. So if that's how we're going to do it, then I just want to make sure that the mirror is set up like so. And then I'm going to bring over a pin drill. And I'm going to just drill at the top, and I'm actually going to flip it over so that the pattern doesn't interfere so much with the correct spot to drill. Okay, and I've just marked out where I want to drill. And then you just drill straight through the piece. Like so. And it doesn't take too long to do that. Then just run your drill through a couple of times to clean up that hole. Then line this up, or don't. Yeah, just line it up and drill one hole on each side. Like so. Okay, then once you've done that, bring over 2 jump rings and an ear wire, and I'm going to be using copper, antique copper to be exact, and let me just try to make sure that I do this in frame. Just going to open that up and going to find the hole, pop that in, find the second hole. This is a bit fiddly, so please forgive me, but you're going to pop that in. Oh, sorry, just trying to pop it through the hole. There we go. Once you get it through, grab your other plier to close that up, and there we go. And then depending on whether you want this part touching this bit, use a small jump ring like I have, or you can use a larger jump ring and have there be a space between the two. I kind of like the two touching, so I'm going to use the smaller jump ring. But again, if you don't like that, use a smaller jump ring. And the second one's usually easier, because you just need to pop it through one of the polymer clay pieces holes and then put a earring or ear wire on and close that up. Nice and easy. And I'm sorry if some of that went off frame, it's a little hard to do that while watching the camera, but yeah, there we go. That's pretty much it. Those are the 2 earrings made from textures around the house. And don't forget that they are double-sided as well, and I think that that works quite nicely. But yeah, let me know if you liked the tutorial, and if you'd like to support the channel going forward, please do consider becoming a member or a patron. There is a join button below the video, and any support is greatly appreciated. But thank you for watching. I hope that this was helpful to you. Again, remember, if you have any suggestions on textures you could find around the house, leave them in the comments below. I'm sure everybody would love to hear. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.